Welcome back, everyone, to the Hearthstone Grandmasters. Hope you enjoyed that little segment with Gia. She puts a lot of work into it, so shout out to Gia. If you want to catch more of her analysis, you can find her over at the APAC region in a cool 11 hours from now. They'll always be going on. The action for Hearthstone is nonstop, TJ. We only give you about 6 hours of sleep, and then you have to get back online to watch more Grandmasters as we get ready for our fourth series of the day, PNC versus Fr0zen.
Sometimes even less. I don't know, Dan. I'm worried for the days where the metagame might slow down a bit. Because right now, we're in a fast metagame. We've metagame with Face Hunter, and Zoo Warlock, and Warrior, and Demon Hunter. And
right,
we're still sometimes going to like 5 hours until APAC once we end. We start throwing in more priests in the mix, Dan, more mages.
Yeah.
More paladins, perhaps. You might be just in for 72 hours straight of Hearthstone coverage every weekend while Grandmasters is on, which, what more could you ask for?
Reruns, TJ. So then we can do 144 hours.
Why stop there? We have 24
As
more hours to
whales
fill.
in the background. Dad, what about me? Don't you have time for me, your son?
He got
Would you turn around and say, I'm about that baby.
He just got some new shoes today. I was just checking him out, Dan. He's looking fly.
That's great.
Give him like 15 years, he'll be quite the handsome man.
Oh yeah, I can't wait for 15 or 16 years from now. I don't know if there's going to be a minimum age requirement for Grandmasters, but Oliver Sanders, or what's Oliver's middle name?
Lynn.
Lynn?
Yeah.
I was hoping that since you're TJ, he'd be OJ Sanders. And his username could be like Orange Juice or something.
What?
That would have been dope. Anyways,
that's
OJ
one of the
Sanders.
things you think of. That's one of the things you think of when you have a kid is do his initials spell anything that he could get made fun of for when he's young.
Anyways, it'll be fun to see him make his way to become a Hearthstone master. In the meantime, we have a pair of other GMs, PNC and Fr0zen, although Fr0zen's webcam does indeed live up to the moniker. It looks like he is Fr0zen. So we'll get that fixed momentarily. We're going to start things off with Zoo Warlock versus Rogue. Both of these players, have had some good moments on broadcast. Have had some pretty awkward moments on broadcast. PNC, which version of PNC will show up today? That's a question we ask ourselves when you've been seeing him play for the past few weeks. But Fr0zen feels like things just haven't really been panning out in a good way for him. And is it because of his decks, or is it because he's just kind of unlucky? I haven't really found a lot of problems in his macro play. So perhaps things will start turning around now. If Fr0zen can get that convincing victory, 2-1, start things off, starts to turn things in the right way. Remember, every single player in the round robin stage will play each other only one time. So if you sense there is a likely group of players to win versus an unlikely group of players to win, right? Because you look at Muzzy, Purple, Fr0zen, some like real killers in Division B who have been historical greats. Not all of them can make playoffs. And so you need to get the wins versus the air quote, the weaker players. And of course, the reason why I put in air quotes because we don't know. Week to week, it could be completely different. PNC's a complete wild card. Sometimes he's showing up and destroying everybody. Sometimes he defeats himself.
Been that way for a while.
Yep.
And it's Bamboozle.
Bamboozle.
All right. What's funny is that 5-drops on average have about as much health as Shadow Jeweler and Mar.
Right. They just kind of gain attack.
Yeah, he's pretty likely to get in that situation.
The average 5-mana minion actually, I believe, is slightly below 5 attack and 5 health. So you shouldn't be surprised if you actually get like a 4-5 or a 5-4 or even worse stats. In a couple of cases, we've seen them hit 3 attack To which I believe that is, you know, the moment where people type LOL in all caps in chat.
Looks like a zoo hand to me, Dan.
Well, he's got Shield Bearer plus development. I think the Fiendish Servant here is totally fine.
Cool.
Oh, don't hold on, dude. Don't laugh too hard, okay? Because then Shield Bearer can inherit, and he would be a sword and Shield Bearer.
Whoa! This card text won't be literal anymore. Crazy.
Useful things, eager to share.
Interesting.
I got you, friend.
So PNC prioritizes just a little bit more attack on the board. The primary reason why I like the Shield Bearer was because I feel like from turn 5 onward, Shield Bearer is way worse because of the threat of Faceless Corruptor. However, Fr0zen's behind on board, so if PNC could get ahead, that probably wouldn't influence his decision.
Mm-hmm.
However, Fr0zen can navigate that by playing Draconic Lackey and then Shadow Stepping to guarantee that Faceless Corruptor.
On wings of evil.
Yeah. Guarantees some value as well. It'll be a pretty telegraphed play, honestly, if he does that. But maybe PNC will think Heisper and Togwaggle. Maybe PNC will think, oh, that's his only Lackey generation, and he has Heisper and Togwaggle on 6. He just wants to make sure that he can do that. But on 5, you also have to be thinking about Faceless Corruptor. Not that he can really do much to play around it, but, you know.
Yeah, like I think that's a really good point. Even if you telegraph your plays to your opponent, what are they going to do in response that can really disrupt it? I suppose your opponent could set up something that the Faceless Corruptor can't get through, but your opponent just used the Beaming Sidekick. So, health. Health doesn't seem to be that big of an issue right now in terms of what you're able to get through. I guess from Fr0zen's perspective, he also has a lot more use cases for Shadow Step with other cards, and you know, Draconic Lackey is one of the weaker lackeys to have. Only because its range is so wide, and a lot of times it's not having immediate impact. He did find a Twin Tyrant, though, and that's a great battle cry.
You shall not die.
Fr0zen does have the Evil Miscreant here as an activation for his turn 6. Oh. Well, by all means. Would you praise Galakron here, or would you Draconic?
If he's Draconic Lackeys, he still has a play on the next turn. Praise Galakron, it doesn't seem like he's going to have trouble using it. And honestly, there's nothing really that's on the board right now that he would need the extra attack for immediately. In fact, having the extra Lackey on board might actually be a big deal.
So many.
It could also force PNC to overreact and trade into it, because he's going into turn 6.
I love that.
Could be Heisper and Togwaggle territory.
Yeah.
So Lackey all the way. Ugh. We haven't seen many juicy scrap imps today. It's just been the double scrap imp in the Bloody Face vs. Language Hacker series. The first one of the day. That just really got me revved up, you know? Ever since then, it's just been a bunch of 2-1s, 1-1s,
Probably.
0-4s. Good sequencing to test for Repentance, even though this Guardian Og Merchant doesn't get the rush and +1 attack. Looks correct to me.
almost out of time.
Now to play around Noble Sacrifice, that's a little bit more interesting. All right.
Get in there and fight, maggot.
Yeah, that secret is very annoying to have to account for, but Fr0zen now can start answering the board with the Faceless Corruptor
On the wings.
and another Draconic Lackey. I do like this Deathwing. If your opponent does play a Scrap Imp, that is one of the ways they would fight back, or you would be able to fight back.
You want to take more damage on your Faceless Corruptor or your face?
It's not like your opponent has a lot of one-attack minions to trade in with, and I think the Magic Carpet, I don't think you have to trade with that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
When you're at 27, it also feels like you have a lot of health to play with.
Choose soon.
So I think I would just use my health. Health is a resource, and I know that a lot of times you're trying to map out like turns in advance, but it's kind of hard for me to imagine.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Oh, jeez.
All right, we got ourselves a game, Dan.
Good.
Things are starting to look up. All right, just kidding.
We can play all of that. And all of them gain +1 attack.
Oh, that's true.
Oh my goodness. Magic Carpet is like Warsong Commander. His charge minions get +1 attack.
Wow. If they cost 1 mana. It's like Warsong Commander. His Stone Tuskboars get +1 attack.
Excellent.
I wonder.
Well, PNC's got a lot of ways to fight for board. So if Fr0zen can't get a foothold and keeps taking chip damage,
Hey, I got you, friend.
scrap it or no scrap it. Seems like a recipe for success for me. This is because this is a lot of damage coming at the face right now.
Oh yeah.
Fight, maggot.
Really? To get the attacks off, he didn't get the final attack off. DJ!
Missed 2 damage.
That Devoted Maniac draw. Really big. Fr0zen now finally can use his Faceless Corruptor. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to. I don't think it matters what you attack into.
Yeah, Fr0zen's not out of the woods yet, though. Still 6 damage on board. Another 1-drop picked up. Taking a look at what PNC's played so far. Oh, well, this scrap him came a little late. He's played, as far as charge minions go, Stone Tuskboar, Bluegill Warrior, and then burn damage, he's played a Soulfire and Abusive Sergeant. So he's got a Soulfire left. PNC cut the Wolf Riders.
I wonder.
It only runs 1 boar. What?
I think
I
he's
don't,
gonna.
I don't know. I don't know. No, not the play, the deck list. I don't know anymore, Dan. What do I know?
Well, I think this play makes a lot of sense just to get the Garden Og Merchant on the board.
Almost out of time.
I think there's a lot of merit in playing the Scrap Imp here.
Hey, you just hard cast Hand of Gul'dan next turn.
Probably.
Exactly.
I can't move.
Oh boy!
Ooh.
So
Yeah.
I'm looking at Twin Tyrant as the first play that jumps out to mind. Is there another play instead with this Blackjack
So
Stunner?
many options.
I think so, because then you could play Blackjack Stunner, Faceless Lackey, and then Evasive Worm. Or
Yeah.
see what happens with this Faceless. That
I mean,
camel
it's a well-statted 2-drop, but
deals 1 damage to his own minion
yeah.
at the end of the turn. Well,
Act as your scapegoat.
what actually happens is it spits on the minion.
All right, well, he can turn this into a pretty well-equipped battle camel if he wants to give it taunt. I think he wants it to die, though.
Right. And then you taunt the camel.
I guess not.
Don't let the door hit.
It's not that big of a deal, right?
No, it's really not. It's just funny.
Yeah.
Also slightly disrespectful. Oh, he spat on the stunner.
Nice. Now PNC wants to hardcast a Hand Gul'dan. He knows that this is never surrender. And he, like I said, he only has 1 charge minion left. 1 Bluegill Warrior, that's it.
Right. He plays
I
Imprisoned Scrap Imp number 2. Is the game even going to progress that far? He's staring at 9 damage on the board. And if he's at 19, Fr0zen has lethal in 2 turns.
Yeah.
Oh my. So, I think you hardcast the Hand of Gul'dan and then hope that Magic Carpet can bail you out?
Yeah. He is starting to run out of 1-drops, though.
Almost out of time.
That is a lot of stats on board. Hand of Gul'dan draws another Hand of Gul'dan.
Yeah. Fatigue is also a possible scenario here, too. Because Expired Merchant and Nightshade Matron both will discard Hand of Gul'dans.
Oh, wow. And is he just dead? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11 through Praise Galakron. 14, 15? To eviscerate?
Galakron's also fully
Galakron.
invoked.
Yeah.
So, pretty likely lethal.
Yeah, he's not guaranteed it, I believe.
Nope, didn't find damage.
But
He only
he can
plays one
find
of
through
Miscreant, I
Evil
guess.
Miscreant.
To
Yeah.
no good? Me too.
And can't find it. Although not a big deal. You could just play High Spear and Togwaggle and the ambush this turn. I guess. Is there any possible way he finds lethal? I don't think so. I think that in his mind, Fr0zen's like, is there any possibility I die at 19 with 11 effective life through more taunts? I don't think so.
There's
There's
0 likelihood.
You win.
PNC just going to concede. Fr0zen takes game 1. Rogue gets the win over Zoo Warlock. There's Fr0zen. We'll fix this webcam just in time for that game-ending play. And the Zoo, once more, kind of back in that same spot. Zoo seems to also struggle a little bit if, they just don't really get anything going against the Rogue. And that's supposed to be a class that I feel like struggles against aggression, right? However, Rogue's just proven that it can keep up in tempo and just like try to claw its way back in slowly. And how big was that moment where he was able to find Face's Corruptor, Shadow Step, and then pick up another minion to use it? So you could see the gamble from Fr0zen paid off. Because when you Shadow Step in that spot, you don't have any guarantee to use it on the following turn. I think Fr0zen was planning 2 turns from that point, but was conveniently rewarded the turn after as well. Because he did have contingencies with the Shield of Galakron in case he needed to just play defense.
Yeah, the Zoo list from PNC, I'm just looking at it, and it honestly feels like you should be going all in charge if you're going to play this version. Because he doesn't run any of the kind of board control package that you'd see in a non-charge version. Like he cuts the additional charge minions for more relatively weak one drops, like shield bearers and abusive sergeants. Now those are great for sometimes burst damage, but without as many chargers, the abusive sergeants, give you some semblance of board control with magic carpet. That's about it. It seems like more combo heavy and more reliant on carpet if you don't draw the imp, and imp if you don't draw the carpet, instead of having like serpent egg, evil genius to find that X factor and get more board presence.
Totally.
It's weird. I don't know. Not sure I like it. Which is weird to say from my perspective. I've been harping on Charge Zoo for a couple weeks now that I think he should play more Chargers. But
Yeah.
the cards he cut, or the cards he added while cutting Chargers, just seem like not to shore up any of the weaknesses of having Chargers in your deck.
Fires of vengeance burn bright.
Well, we're going to find out if it has an opportunity to take one against the Priest. Although I think that this Priest hand is looking a lot closer to the Priest hand that I think people imagine when they bring this class. Looking very solid right now.
Yeah, it does lack, similar to purple, a little bit of the board sweep removals. It looks like it's designed in a DH banning lineup, which would make sense since both Fr0zen and purple brought very similar lists, if not the same list, in both ban Demon Hunter. Cuts the Holy Novas, does still run Breath of the Infinite, but has cards like Apotheosis and Wild Pyromancer, which give you a little bit more flexibility than Breath of the Infinite and Holy Nova, which are, designed to take out 2 health boards, which is what Demon Hunter is an expert at. So you're banning that, you need to kind of change the way you build your list.
That's an upgrade. Probably.
Fr0zen knew the risk there. Both the double Guardian, Og Merchant, or double Beast Sergeant in the list from PNC, or Stone Dust Boar, Pulga Warrior would have answered that. The Sethic Veil Weaver.
You were just a burden.
Looking for Scrap Imp. Nope.
Doesn't find it. More of the same. Shadow Word Death. That's a really big pickup here for Fr0zen. And doesn't have to overreact. Doesn't have to play Wild Pyromancer with that. Can just kind of chill. We are big chilling.
So this deck does not have a great way to straight up answer Magic Carpet outside of Time Rip.
So many.
I guess you could find it with Renew.
Right. I mean, Shadow Madness sometimes has applications.
Sometimes, but there's usually not like a high enough attack meaning to trade it into, but you can like weaken it and kill it off.
So
PNC is going to risk it.
possibilities.
Something we don't talk about too often, since we just kind of think it's assumed knowledge at this point, but
Almost out of time.
it's the open deck list, obviously, since we're in an online environment, which means that players know they can use Deck Tracker, they can have their opponent's deck list open, so they know exactly what they played and they know exactly what they have in their deck. So they have full information, essentially. Outside of just being able to see the hand of their opponent.
Right. And it's kind of critical for you to plan around that. There's a lot of open information out there, and yes, it's, because you know what you can play around, that's important, but also like just for you to make sure that you're making the correct technical plays and playing around the probability. And this is one of the things where PNC is
Many possibilities.
he's pretty open, right? Zoo just does things very consistently. He doesn't really generate minions outside the deck ever since they started taking out Evil Genius for Chargers. Meanwhile, Fr0zen, his entire win condition is cards outside of his deck. Priest does not win with the cards that start in their 30 card deck. They like to win through generating value off the Galakrond Priest hero power. And if there was a way, even their win condition that's in the deck, like Fr0zen, is like generating cards that didn't start in their deck. You're playing cards from your opponent.
Yeah.
And we kind of joked about it earlier on broadcast how everyone just says Priest plays any card defensively and they just call it toxic. Yeah, for the most part, the sentiment is that Priest doesn't really win in an honest way because you can't ever truly account for the things that you can play around. And that's what makes it such a scary class.
Did you say scary or toxic? Sounded like
At this, I mean, I think the word is interchangeable for a while.
at least to the vast majority. I don't know. I think, well, at least for this week, I played a lot of like language checkers, Highlander priests, and it's fun. It's really fun. I don't know.
It's great. It's great because, you know, I think there's some really great ideas. Wow, what a draw from PNC. Picks up this Nightshade Matron to discard Hannah Gul'dan. I think there's a lot of like very amusing trends that happens when people talk about game design, especially in a card game like Hearthstone, which seems relatively simple. But if you ever tap into the world of the game design behind Hearthstone, you actually realize how difficult it is to make things simple. It's actually very easy to make things complicated. You know, like you can create a card that has like 3 layers of Death Rattle and a Battle Cry and does this when it shuffles into your deck, right? But when you try to keep things simple yet complex, that's when it becomes really tricky. And so when people try to talk about game design in general, they start to throw out some buzzwords like, "Oh, this is like oppressive," but like one of the words that we always see very frequently, the word toxic. Pretty amusing. Sometimes they're right though, right? Sometimes there is actual toxic. Like Demon Hunter at launch for Ashes of Outland was not okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're slowly getting closer. We're moving the needle in the right direction.
It's good to
Because
see.
Demon Hunter is toxic.
10. Maybe we're toxic.
So many.
We definitely are toxic.
PNC thinks his deck
I
is
have
toxic.
our own stream pulled up just for integrity reasons, right? Just to make sure that everything looks and sounds right. I muted us because we're toxic.
Good. Good. So Fr0zen played the Mind Player, copies the, or not copies, but selects the Nightshade Matron as the Death Rattle choice.
That's right.
Most likely scenario for him to be able to get an Apotheosis target. Also, I like the fact that he's holding on to this Wild Pyromancer as long as possible. He's waiting for, you know, this kind of thing to happen where PNC goes quite wide on board and he can get the most value out of it.
I appreciate these kinds of plays a lot. I think this is a mark of a very good control player, is when you've convinced the other opponent that you don't have AoE, or you don't have like the proper response to it. That being said, this is still like a tricky situation because of the Divine Shields.
Yeah.
So it's not like Fr0zen is out of the woods.
Yeah, he could go Breath of the Infinite, Wild Pyro Penance.
Okay. That kills off.
It just doesn't line up super well, right?
Yeah. Wait, what if he... So, Apotheosis with Wild Pyromancer also has
Yes.
some pretty interesting implications. Because, you know, Wild Pyromancer deals 1 damage to all minions.
And that counts as the minion dealing damage.
Yeah, so he gets lifesteal off of the Wild Pyromancer.
Yeah. And now he's going to get additional lifesteal. This is like 27. He's back up to 27.
Exactly. And it's also a reasonably statted minion that you have to answer as PNC.
Yeah.
That being said, PNC still has some reload through Hearthstone's free cards.
The only one is expired merchant Battle Mage. There's the only two.
I mean,
Battle Mage is quite easy. It's a common.
All jokes aside, the really cool thing is that this entire deck costs like 2,000 dust, and you can totally climb the legend with it.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you, like, any free-to-play player that wants to be able to climb the legend, and I understand that free-to-play players have multiple goals, but if one of them is to be competitive, you totally can just climb with this deck on day one and go all the way to legend. Now, of course, you do need a lot of experience and understanding of the metagame.
I wonder.
But, I mean, it has a lot of potential, and PNC, despite him kind of getting that setback, he still very much is a threat. Fr0zen doesn't have like any meaningful threat. He only has responses. So if PNC can drain him of that, he still might find a small opening.
No way.
Wow.
Fr0zen has drawn 2 more scrap imps than PNC this game. And he's not even playing the card.
Oh, that's hilarious. Fr0zen will have played. EJ, will Fr0zen have played more scrap imps than PNC this game?
It's possible. I mean, PNC only has 8 cards left, so
It's still good.
7 cards, still no
Still
scrap.
hasn't found a scrap imp.
At this point, scrap imp's a bad draw
Right.
because he's out of cards.
He doesn't do anything.
Thy blood be born again.
Just needs to find any reasonably statted minions. Grand Mummy, not really it. But Fr0zen can also get another minion through the form of Time Rip.
There, that 2/1 is effectively the biggest minion he can even time rip in the deck. Because Nightshade Mages are gone, Magic Carpets are gone. I guess
Right.
Imprisoned Scrap Imp, but
Fr0zen has used a lot of his single target removal. The Stealthic Veil Weaver. Let me look real quick here. Pull up the
he has-
little deck CC.
he has Shadow Madness, he has Apotheosis.
Yep, he has another death.
I mean, technically Renew. Just have to use it on a minion.
Yeah, but I believe there's a lot more misses than hits. No Scrap Imp! I think PNC at this point hopes he doesn't draw Scrap Imp because then it'd just be kind of funny. Like I think PNC has kind of resigned himself to his fate. There's not much to do here. He can, at best, give stack this shield bearer.
Many possibilities.
Fr0zen can pass 2 turns and still win the game.
One thing's for sure, this Veil Weaver is gonna dominate the board. And if I'm PNC, I'm thinking about trying to just go all in and just pressure my opponent as best I can here.
Mummy needs 5.
Ooh, it's basically like it's buffed by a Scrap Imp.
We're back online.
Oh, he's gonna take 2 more Scrap Imps! He found one
only
more!
one. Only 1 more. That's okay.
I mean, that...
I can't move.
It's official. Fr0zen will have played more Scrap Imps than PNC. He's also drawn 3 of them before PNC's found 1.
Yeah.
And, PNC being a very good sport about it, saying like, hey, yeah, I did put it in my deck.
So now PNC gave the sort of sarcastic clap, but I just want to say,
I can't move.
if you build a deck that's designed around drawing one card, you can't be mad when you lose because you didn't draw that one card. Especially considering it feels like the way that PNC built his deck, Zulus deck specifically, he's more all in on the Scrap Imp draw than say a Zoo that would run like Serpent Egg and like Evil Genius.
I'm almost out of
The last card! I don't even think PNC's that mad. I think he's impressed. Alright, that's going to do it. So a limp to the finish line. That's going to wrap up game 2. Fr0zen up 2-0 over PNC.
this time.
And Priest gets a victory over Zoo once more. So, you know, Priest versus Zoo seems to be a pretty pivotal match because the Priest ain't beating the Warriors. So
Nope.
they can beat the Zoo Warlocks because they're not really dealing enough damage from hand. They have to stick something on board, and then you're able to slowly drain them out of resources.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he did. I mean, PNC played almost every single one of his cards, and Fr0zen was at almost 30 life at the end of the game. That's kind of what happens. So now Fr0zen only has the Demon Hunter remaining, which, I mean, Demon Hunter been a pretty automatic bring for every player all the way back to week 1, especially back in week 1. And it's been consistently performing well across every single week.
This ends now.
Doubt PNC's going to be able to beat it 3 times in a row, but he's saying to himself, I haven't had Scrap Imp on 2 this whole series. This is the game. Next game's the game.
I mean, Demon Hunter getting off to a really quick start means that Zoo can't win it back unless they find the Magic Carpet. I've seen people start with Scrap Imp and still just like kind of get blown out because the Demon Hunter has really powerful tempo tools in the early game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's happy to see that.
Yeah, you're happy to see that. On both sides, really. Like, PNC's like, I had a really bad turn. But Fr0zen also skipped his turn 1. And now Fr0zen
Ain't
has the
skipping his
Satyr
turn
Overseer.
2. Ugh. Man, Dan. Oh, man.
So the way I see it, when you draw Warglaves of Azeroth and you have Satyr Overseer in this matchup, it feels like you always have to at least pause and think about the possibility of using Satyr Overseer as a blowout tool. You can get really far ahead. You set up the Warglaive, your opponent's not going to be able to answer it. Then you play the Satyr Overseer, and then you just go to town. And he has Twin Slice to even help get through, you know, all those buffed up taunts. And PNC, once more, no Scrap Imp.
Yeah.
Why do we even need to nerf this card when it's guaranteed to not be in your opening hand? And now PNC has played his Magic Carpet, and that's one less counterplay opportunity against the Satyr Overseer.
Well, it is kind of a proactive play against the Satyr Overseer.
Sure.
Because by playing the Magic Carpet, he says, well, if you just have Satyr Overseer, you can't kill this Magic Carpet, and then your Satyr Overseer is just going to die. So it did force Fr0zen off of it.
I got you, friend.
True.
He actually could have Satyr Overseered, and then coined Hero Power double Twin Slice.
Wow, you see Fr0zen double slicing.
Yeah,
So you can
he's got the
prioritize
weapon
that extra
swings.
1/1.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's got the Warglaive. I have no doubt that, I mean, the most important thing is that he has a weapon swing for next turn for Glaive-bound Adept. Then he has the Warglaives out of Nathal 5, then he has a Satyr Overseer, and then he has School. Meanwhile,
Oh,
PNC
there we go.
finds the imprisoned Scrap Imp. A TJ. Is it too late?
It might
Oh.
be too late.
Oh, Nelly. Oh, wow. Turn 6 is about to be super explosive here for Fr0zen.
Yeah. I mean, PNC's got some ways to fight back. It's just he needs multiple turns of dealing with the board before the scrap imp is going to activate. Okay, double shield bear.
I can't move.
Yeah, that's huge. If he doesn't discard one. Loses
Alright,
the Fiendish
conservative.
Servant. Not a big deal. Question becomes, is PNC ready for this massive Warglaze of Athenoth opportunity?
No, he's not ready.
I grow impatient.
He just played a Scrap Imp. Then Fr0zen plays a Warglaze. PNC plays something.
Well, is it better to play Satyr Overseer right now?
That's also a possibility. You just saw a Soulfire, and you also saw a Magic Carpet. There's less options to remove it, and if your opponent does remove it, they have to play a little bit suboptimally because they're not going to get charge. At least they won't get the buff off with the charge.
Yeah. And then you can always follow, if the Satyr Overseer doesn't get dealt with, then you follow it up with Warglaze Vasanov. Because Warglaze Vasanov has something to attack into right now.
Oh, yeah.
And he has the second one anyway.
He does.
It was like the best of both worlds.
Yeah, put a hold on that.
Another taunt, though. Well, Nightshade Mansion looks kind of appealing. We'll discard the Expired Merchant, which honestly isn't doing much in the hand right now anyway. It's just, will the turn, the buffed minion, explode onto the board turn next turn be enough?
You were just a burden.
Also, can you afford a life tap? Life tap down to 15. There's 4 guaranteed on board. Metamorphosis would not guarantee a 2-turn lethal. Oh, man. Because Fr0zen's still at 29, which means that PNC needs a lot of time because be on a clock, whether or not it's Metamorphosis or Kane.
Well, the good news is that PNC has a very good turn with all these stat buffs.
Hey, I got you, friend.
But honestly, it doesn't look that appealing against a Warglaze Vasanov. I guess Warglaze Vasanov doesn't have infinite charges.
We're back online.
Alright, second Scrap Imp. Not really doing anything right now, but it means that he has a chance for some big reload afterwards.
Yeah.
I mean, PNC doesn't have a choice but to just dump his hand right now.
You shall not pass.
Yeah, we talked about explosive turns. Here's one from the zoo.
Why do you call?
Finally, things looking up here for PNC. If I were PNC, I would consider finding a way to use the Soulfire here too, instead of playing the second Scrap Imp. Your second Scrap Imp's not going to even buff anything significant. And I think life tapping puts you in a danger zone where Metamorphosis could potentially squeeze you out of the game.
Many possibilities.
Yeah, because he's not even close to setting up any type of 2-turn here.
Right. Not just for trade.
Get in there and fight, maggot.
Yeah. Happy with the play.
And here we go. Satyr, Overseer,
And a Battle Fiend.
and a Battle
Depends. Depends if he wants to Shadow Weaver or not.
Yeah. Does the extra attack here? The extra attack here is pretty significant. The Fr0zen Shadow Weaver is just like stronger than the Battle Fiend. Fr0zen, if he freezes this Stone Tusk board, is just so that PNC doesn't get the best value trade.
Is it
Yeah.
cold in the shadows?
The reason why I like holding on to the Battle Fiend is that if Fr0zen finds a way to pick up, say, Altruist, that's like another card that he can use to help just like swing and win.
Yeah.
4 2/2s being played. PNC can only answer 3 of them. And if he life taps, he's putting himself in the zone of danger.
Looks like another 0-3 Zoo performance to me, Dan.
Oh boy.
Twice in one day.
No, don't. It's still good.
So actually, I really wonder if there was a merit to playing Expired Merchant before the Abusive Sergeant. In the off chance that you need like 2 copies of Abusive Sergeant to do something else. Oh my goodness. Oh wait, he doesn't have enough mana for all of that.
Yeah. It's
Still great.
Good.
Oh yeah.
Clears the entire board.
Fires of vengeance.
That's gonna do it. PNC just can't come back. And PNC Zoo Warlock will fail pretty spectacularly, as we have seen Zoo Warlock struggle before, but the good news is at least he got 2 damage with that Blue Go Warrior.
At least got to hit face once.
Fr0zen with a convincing victory improves to 2-1, which is looking good for him. Fr0zen is one of the best performers in all of Grandmasters, not just America's. Fr0zen's record was not really matched by anybody over the first 2 seasons. I think he had the highest win percentage in all of GM over the course of 2019.
Yeah.
It would just be flooring if he was like on the chopping block for relegation. And he is improving his chances in a very important win against PNC.
Yeah, and PNC is kind of on the other end of that spectrum, right? He's 0-2 now. He did have a 1-game week in week 1, or 1 match week in week 1, but pressure's on. He's not down there with purple just yet. He has another chance later on this week, but got to pull himself out. And right now, like I said, Zoo Warlock, while it has had its moments, just doesn't seem consistent enough to be a huge force in a lot of these Conquest best of 5s. Does seem to be a weak link against a lot of players. So he will have to see if he can pick up a win in his next matchup later in the weekend.
That's right. So in the meantime, we're going to get ready for our last news of the day, TJ. We're kind of blistering through